Hello, everyone. Welcome to Sounds from the Studio, brought to you by Contemporary Craft. Contemporary Craft fosters the use of traditional craft materials such as ceramic, fiber, glass, metal, and wood to make art. Our community honors the history and heritage of craft while showcasing modern, exploratory work.
And since our organization is located in Pittsburgh, PA, we decided to bring some of the stories of our exhibiting and studio artists to a broader audience by way of this podcast. I'm Rachel, the Executive Director at Contemporary Craft.
And I'm Kahmeela, podcaster and art enthusiast. We are your hosts for this journey, and there are many ways to keep up with us. You can go to the Facebook page and like it, Contemporary Craft, on Twitter at SCCPGH, Instagram at SCCPGH, or just go to contemporarycraft.org. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts. We just ask that you please follow, rate, and review, and also share alike.
As we're recording this podcast, we are preparing for the opening of our exhibition, Climate Awakening, Crafting a Sustainable Future, which will offer a different perspective for engaging with the issue of climate change by critically examining its impact through the lens of art. This timely exhibition will serve as an opportunity for community building that encourages proactive engagement with climate issues through a series of relevant events and exploration of the artistic content. Please take a look at the calendar of events on our website so you can see how to engage with us. From neighborhood cleanups to touring green buildings or participating in our climate summit, we are looking forward to encouraging action around this exhibition.
Susie, welcome to Sounds from the Studio. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Susie, thank you for being with us today. We're looking forward to talking about the work we've been doing with you for the Climate Awakening exhibition, as well as what you have going on with Radical Jewelry Makeover. So there's a lot of topics that we want to cover, but before we start traversing all of those with you, I'm wondering if we can start with Radical Jewelry Makeover, since it's been in the cases for a couple of weeks with us. Can you start by telling us a little bit about the ethos of that project and what is Radical Jewelry Makeover?
Sure, yeah. Here's our tagline. Ready? Radical Jewelry Makeover is a traveling community jewelry mining and recycling project. That's essentially what it is. I mean, it's so much more than that. I'll just tell you a little bit about it. So we create a transparent supply chain. We go into communities. We're invited in by institutions such as this one, Contemporary Craft, or a university or a college, a guild maybe. And we put out a call to action donation drive, and we ask the local community to mine their jewelry boxes. Picture your jewelry box right now. You probably have an old class ring.
Yeah, I wish I had heard this call months ago.
Yeah, so old class ring, a single earring because it lost its mate. Perhaps you went through a divorce and you have a diamond ring, and it's too burdensome to even take out from that bottom of that jewelry box, right? We ask the community to go in and mine that jewelry box and send us that material. And then we put it in the hands of jewelers who remake it into fresh, exciting, renewed pieces.
Oh, that's
right?
amazing.
Yeah, so that's essentially what we do.
So if I can ask, because I think it's an interesting word that you keep using, mining. And so when we talk about ethical metalsmiths and mining, if we dig into a little bit more about why would you recycle this jewelry? Of course, there's the jewelry industry is laden kind of with a different kind of mining. So why the impetus to make this project come to life or start mining from our existing objects?
Thanks for that question, because I didn't quite fully flesh out what our jam was. So I was like, darn, I need a second chance. So thank you. One of the reasons we do it is because we are asking the question, do we really need to put another hole in the ground to dig out new material? Is there enough material that's already been extracted that we could be utilizing over and over? If you think about that jewelry box, go back to that jewelry box where you have all of your stuff in there. You have a variety of things in there. Some of it is gold, real gold. Some of it is real silver. Some of it is costume jewelry that's plated, right? So if you can sift those in your mind for a moment, gold and silver materials that are precious like that, they are renewable and reusable and recyclable infinitely over and over and over without degradation. Those are the materials we're really pointing at, because in truth, gold mining, hard rock mining for gold in the United States is the dirtiest industry in this country. And extractive processes harm the land around the mine sites in perpetuity. That means forever, not just 100 years, not just 1,000 years. And so we really, when I started this project in 2007 with Christina Miller, we were both struck by the fact that we were teaching in universities and graduating generations of jewelers who were going to go out in the world and purchase more material over and over and make more jewelry over and over. And we were struck by the glut of that, and the waste of that, and how complicit were we in the system that was contributing to global degradation, environmental degradation. And we were wondering if there was a different way. Could we create a different model? And so, we've been doing this project since 2007, or I've been doing the project since 2007. The person that I started the project with, Christina Miller, has gone on to do other work in the environmental sustainable jewelry movement. And now I have a new co-director, Kathleen Kennedy. And, we keep doing the project because we're still searching for wise practices and wise solutions that can make us feel good about the things that we use to decorate our bodies, communicate about ourselves culturally, right? Like, we're not going to stop wearing jewelry anytime soon. Yeah. Anyway, so sorry, that was a long rambling answer, but that's
perfect. Yeah. And I think so it leads into, I actually have kind of a follow-up question. So I think we kind of hit on this. We just had lunch, so we kind of hit on it a little bit, but if we can, go from there to the systems of value or perceived value to some degree. So there's not a cost difference in these objects that have been recycled, so to speak, or the jewelry that has been used versus if somebody had bought that material, let's say from a supplier rather than through RJM. So, I mean, for the sake of our listeners, can you talk about why is that, the labor that's still involved or the value that still exists in that ingot that you recycle over and over again?
Ooh, I love this question. You're really asking really good questions. So one of the things in doing this project, we realized that there is a cultural perception of value in material, right? I mean, we've decided that gold is money. It equals X number of dollars, right? But in the RJM economy, we like to say the RJM economy, the value of creativity, the value of the skilled hand of the jeweler is a very high commodity in our culture here. And the reason is that without a jeweler, that chunk of gold would just remain a chunk of gold, right? It takes the creativity and skills of jewelry designers and artists who are remaking that material innovatively, with consideration, with care, and with love to shepherd that material forward into the world. And so the way that work is priced is based on that.
Sure. Yeah.
And sometimes, I mean, to even say, the majority of what we get is costume jewelry, of course, sure. Right. Costume jewelry makes up the majority of what is made in terms of jewelry in the world, or in this country. I shouldn't speak for the world. And of course, costume jewelry is inexpensive. easy to purchase, easy to wear, and easy to dispose of. That's why it was made that way.
Right.
And it's not even made to last. You know, when the plating comes off and your finger starts to itch because you are allergic to the metal underneath,
Right.
that's when it goes to the bottom of your jewelry box. And we ask for that material, right? We can't recycle that. We can only reuse it. And so actually, if you think about it, the innovation of using costume jewelry, which is destined for the trash, is actually harder than innovating and renewing a piece of gold. And so in our system, or in the way that we evaluate jewelry in our system, excellent creative solutions for costume jewelry are priced at the same level as a piece of gold jewelry. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As you've collected these donated pieces of jewelry, have you also collected any of the stories that go along with them?
Such a good, I'm being set up with the best questions here. Like, you guys are like, yes. And one of the reasons, so everyone can download a donation form if you go to Radical Jewelry Makeover, radicaljewelrymakeover.org. We have this donation form that you can fill out, and on it we ask, do you have a story about the things that you're sending us? And the reason we ask for that is that jewelry is something that people have attachments to. I mean, I'm wearing a wedding ring. It tells the rest of the world something about me, and it reminds me of a commitment I have to this person I love so dearly, right? I wear talismans around my neck that protect me. I wear pieces of jewelry, like today I'm wearing a Gina sew, and Gina is a dear friend of mine, and this piece has value to my heart, right? And so we ask for people's stories, and we get incredible stories about somebody whose mother died and this person didn't know what to do with their mother's jewelry, and it's painful, and they send it to us. Or somebody tells us about a brooch they purchased on a trip abroad 1 year, 20 years ago, and they love this piece, but they stopped wearing it. And then the people that remake the jewelry, the people that participate and collaborate with us in this project, they use those stories as inspiration often. And so it becomes material for the next iteration of those pieces even, which is quite beautiful.
That's awesome. Like, yeah, because I know that is why we all have such a tangled mess of a jewelry box, because a lot of times, you may not wear it anymore, you may not even like it anymore, but it's like, oh, this reminds me of that time in my life when I was young and carefree, or whatever.
No, absolutely. Like, I think jewelry communicates so much about our insides, right, to the outside world. And we can take it for granted, but it's a very strong communicator, and people forget about that. Or people that don't wear jewelry, I should say. I'm very biased. So, I mean, I think jewelry is embodied with superpowers that we utilize all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, I mean, I'm not like a really big jewelry wearer. Like, I have enough jewelry, but I'm never like, only gold. I'm not really particular about and I'm not a snob about it. But the one thing I will not absolutely leave my house without is, like, I will always have my wedding ring on, and I will always have earrings on. Like, if I get out of the house and I don't have on earrings, I feel naked.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I feel it's interesting that we're having this conversation today, because I'm wearing, just my wedding bands and a pair of earrings, and I feel naked, because to me, the way that I adorn myself every day and identify in the world that day is based on what I'm wearing, and most specifically what jewelry I'm wearing. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
I agree with that. But I'm glad I'm not preaching to the choir here. It's really good.
And I only have, and I have like, 5 rings basically that I wear every day. And like the one reminds me of my mom, because it's like a spoon ring that, similar to something she had when I was growing up. And then, my husband designed my engagement ring. So it's just like they all have a special meaning to me. And But yeah, like it's really great. And also, okay, so when we are remaking the jewelry from the old jewelry, and I don't want to sound superstitious or anything, but like if somebody has sent a bad story along with their jewelry, is there any sort of like purification process that you guys go through? I mean, I'm just out
Saging
of
of the jewelry.
yeah, just there's just some say a few words to like cleanse this jewelry of whatever, you know,
Yeah.
because
That
they
is
do
such a
become
good
talismans
They
to a way.
do. It's such a good question, actually. And yes, I mean, so because this is a collaborative, when we work with institutions and we are sorting through the donations, and this is a side note, a little bit of a tangent, but everyone that sends us a donation, we assess that donation for its reuse value, and we send them a coupon based on the reuse value of the materials given. So we have to go through it pretty carefully, and we do it as a group, as a collective. And so when we come across a story that's particularly painful, we often stop as a group and talk about it. And we try to come up with a solution, because we feel not only that we're shepherding the material, but we're also shepherding the donor forward in some way. And so in some instances, for example, we've decided as a collective that donation would be reworked, just its materials, and one person would remake it, and we're going to send it back to that donor. And so we have done that with wedding rings, with wedding jewelry that has turned painful, and we send it right back to that person, and we give them an explanation of what we are doing and why we're doing it.
That is so healing.
Beautiful.
I love that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know, so RJM is focused on jewelry, but your personal work goes into a larger, like you do large scale installation and sculpture. Did you did you personally work in both ways?
I still do work in both ways. My background and training is in jewelry. And then slowly over the years, I think because of my curiosity to see things differently, to try different strategies for making artwork and seeing different types of outcomes, my work has grown into different formats and also different materials.
Yeah.
So that's a great segue into talking about the Climate Awakening exhibition specifically, because I would love to talk a little bit about how your work relates to the collection of objects or the collection of materials, so to speak. So in particular, the piece that's titled Pile. Can you talk about how that came into existence, or those materials, where they come from?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think it's kind of a perfect conversation to talk about RJM, how it works, and then how I work now. And well, I have a tangent. No, I won't tell you my tangent. But
That's why we're here. Let's hear it.
Yeah. This is
Well-
podcasts are built for tangents.
Perfect. Then, so years ago, when I first started working with RJM, I had my independent studio practice and then this collaborative work I was doing. And one of my students challenged me. We were talking about my independent work, and he said, how can you make that work? You do this project, Radical Jewelry Makeover, and you're thinking about the environment, but then in your own work, you're generating new materials. You're working with raw materials that are miraculously showing up at your door, right? And you're not embodying the same value systems that you do in the collaborative work. How can you do that? Wow. And I was like, wow, he just nailed me. And I really had to think about that. Like, I'm not different from anybody else. I mean, those miraculously delicious, shiny sheets of beautiful metal that arrived at my doorstep were captivating, right? I mean, they're a blank slate for anything I might want to do. But I slowly changed my practice to start collecting things and asking people for materials. And so some of the early pieces, I didn't really specify. I'd ask people, I need white stuff. anything that you're throwing away or that you're not utilizing. So I would get anything from, a name tag that had somebody's name written on it, or a bauble, or a pencil, like somebody's golf pencil from, or a golf tee. I had a lot of golf tees actually. Pregnancy tests, parts of fans, like anything. And I would just pick things up off the street too. And I started working with things like that, and I realized it opened up a whole new potential for me. I realized that I was missing this opportunity to collaborate with materials that had their own story and metaphor and their own journey, right? To let them be what they are. I stopped craving those virgin, beautiful, shiny sheets of metal, And so as my practice evolved, I also started asking people on social media for stuff. So now I use Instagram. I put out calls where I ask people for materials, and they send me things from across the country. Pile, the piece that you asked me about, is made out of used coffee lids. And I've collected those from coffee shops in my local community, but also from Instagram, where people send me their coffee lids,
So basically,
And
so side note, like personal notes in myself, just make sure that I follow you on Instagram so you can help me clean out some of my stuff.
Yeah, please send it to me. Because I also think, I don't know if this is true. I mean, somebody could tell me otherwise, but I think increasingly it's hard to throw things in the trash. Like, we understand that there's a burden for the things that we accumulate. And so throwing, here I am, next to me is a cup of coffee with, cup, there's the drink, the hot, what is this?
sleeve.
The sleeve and the lid. It's a lot of trash, It feels bad to put it in the trash. So I think when I put out calls to people and I say, hey, if you have coffee lids, would you send them to me? Yeah. It actually feels good to feel useful.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and also there's also just like a lot of just random things too. So like I don't want to throw this away, but I no longer have any use for it, like T-shirts or this book or whatnot. I would love it if I knew someone who would would love it as much as I did once,
Yeah.
So I'm curious. Again, we had talked a little bit. I shared my purist nature that I'm trying to push myself outside of. But I'm curious, though, when you talk about having been working with the shiny metal and your practice and your process to go into essentially plastics, like the divergence of the material. What was the curve to working in that way? Or I will say I actually have one of your brooches that's like beautifully embroidered. And I'm just curious, like the working with a different type of material that you were used to. How did that feel?
Ooh, I love this question too. These are really good questions. When I was getting my degree in metalsmithing and jewelry, I remember talking with my classmates a lot about how the things we were making were going to live on past our lifetimes easily, right? That's just a fact. And heirlooms are things that we pass down in jewelry. Like I have my mom's wedding ring. I have her jewelry. If I keep them, they'll live on beyond my lifetime. I started thinking about that more as a burden, that maybe in my lifetime, I don't want to pass things on to the next generation. So anti-heirloom in a way, and plastic was the perfect medium for that. I mean, I know that plastics will live on. This piece that was recently purchased by the Renwick, the Smithsonian Museum, Renwick Gallery, they had a plastics conservator come in and check the piece, and they said that the piece would be around for 2,000 years. I know my heart stopped. I was like, no. And we know that plastics are enduring, but they do, with exposure to light and air, they're transforming. I mean, that piece, the coffee lid tapestry, it's becoming brittle. It's oxidizing and turning yellow. It will be around, but it's not going to look like that.
In perpetuity either.
Yeah, it's going to turn into a cracked pile of dust, right? And I started thinking about that as a positive thing, that when I die, my work will be ready to die with me. In a way, trying to think about making room for others, making room for the next generation, making room for the next people that are going to shepherd ideas forward. Like how enduring does a thing have to be?
Yeah.
I mean, I think about the burden of monuments, the burden of sculptures that are enduring. I think somebody could argue right now and say, wait a minute, they're part of the historic canon, it's important information. And I agree with that. 100%. But
to an extent, also, they just kind of become, some of them, irrelevant, or they no longer, or what they once stood for is no longer acceptable with a lot of monuments and statues right today. Like, I can think of a couple here in Pittsburgh that we had some issues with.
I can think of a list right now in my head. And I guess that it's completely true, and so the things that I make, I have purposely made them with the understanding and the ability to either disassemble them and have the reusable parts and recyclable parts be put back into the supply chain, thinking about circularity, and other things that can't, like the plastic lids, they can go on to the recycling center, the landfill, wherever they have to go, right? It's been something that I've been really thinking about. Like, how much space does an individual need to take up? Like, do we need... And I just think about that a lot.
Yeah. But no, that's really quite beautiful to think about too. I have all these other questions, but this is such an interesting conversation because I think too, just like the absence of ego in what you're saying too, because this idea that like once we are no longer here, like the object, like the physicality of what we leave behind, and this idea of the importance in that specific object versus, I mean, look at the way we can document today. Like, why does the object actually have to live on beyond this versus just the documentation of the process? Or again, to that conversation of lineage, like, or the oral transcript that we leave with people behind us, why is the relationship not just as important as the object? So I will not stay on the tangent. I will go and ask the next question.
But just to that point that you were making, it's like one of the things that I've heard is that we only die, we don't actually die until people stop talking about us.
Yes.
Or something to that. It was probably much more profound and beautiful, but I'm paraphrasing. But yeah, so like we don't absolutely like need, to leave a physical thing behind as long as we've got our stories and memories to carry on and forward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And maybe it's okay to be forgotten a little bit too.
No, I refuse. I refuse to be forgotten.
Or at least maybe I'm preparing myself in an egotistical, self-centered way. Like I'm trying to crush my ego a little bit here to understand that I'm going to be part of the mycelium network. I think that my next purpose is something else. Mm-hmm. And if you forget my name, okay, I'm on to another thing, right? Like at least that's how I am trying to practice my life a little bit,
Yeah, I mean, we're here for the time that we're here.
Yeah.
So enjoy that and be whatever you can be in this moment.
Yeah.
So you also made a new piece for this exhibition that everyone here is just like totally buzzing about because it's, relatively interactive and you can come up underneath and kind of put your head inside of it.
Oh, cool.
Can we talk a little bit about the work and the content or context of that work?
Yeah, sure. I was so excited I like to think that I'm meeting my pieces when I get to see them installed for the first time. So it was really special to be here for the install, to meet her, Should I describe the piece because we're on radio, maybe?
Yes.
Okay, so the piece is part of an ongoing series that I call Landscapes, and it's a 4 by 4 by 4 foot cube that's suspended from the ceiling, and it is made out of thousands of cut strips of used plastic bags that are tufted onto a fabric surface. And then on the inside, you can go inside, put your head inside, and there's a little glowing space that's all tufted on the inside as well. And the piece is, as I said, from the landscape series, and is called Pixel. And it's a single pixel that's been rendered in this scale.
Yeah, I'm
my
looking at your
thinking-
pictures now. Pictures of
I
it.
know, I haven't had I just posted some pictures on my Instagram feed for this piece. I haven't been able to. I mean, my studio is quite small. It's like 325 square feet. So everything I make, I really can't see it until I get to see it,
Right.
In the space. When I was designing this piece, I had been simultaneously working on this series of tufted tapestries that was a rolling series of emoticon messages in my imagination, a series of emoticon messages that a plastic bag was sending to humanity, and we weren't writing back. And the messages are I haven't shown this work yet either, but the emojis at first, it starts off really simple, like the plastic bag sends the broken heart emoticon to humanity, and then the three
A lot of, like,
dots are
JK.
waiting. Three dots, three dots, three dots, three dots, and then another emoticon comes, like worried, and you could translate that, I'm worried about, why aren't you writing me back, says plastic bag, right? So anyway, and the conversation rolls on, and plastic bag keeps sending messages to us, and we don't respond. And when I was making that series, I was thinking about the personality of a plastic bag, right? Like, she didn't ask for anything. We made her, and now we're criticizing her.
Right.
Now we're shunning her. We're actually vilifying her, and she's quite a remarkable thing. And so as I've been working with these materials, I have found that, they are my environmental adversary, right? But then I've become friends with them. I've found empathy for these materials that are ruining our atmosphere, our biospheric health, right? And so similarly, I was thinking about, in my landscape series, I'm thinking about how environmental degradation and climate change is changing our landscapes. And so I realized that there's this ubiquity in plastic. Plastic is a new form of landscape, but then so is the pixelated landscape. The mediated world that we live in is also a new form of landscape. Not even that new, to be honest. And I was thinking about the single pixel. What would it feel? Could I find empathy for it? Could I create a sculpture where I could actually go inside and be inside of a pixel for a minute? Could I walk inside of her shoes? And I know that sounds so simple, but it became this sort of quest for me, like, where's the empathy that I'm finding for the mediated landscape that I am vilifying on a daily basis?
Wow.
Right? And so in a way, it's a departure from my other work, but in a way it's not. It's completely of this minute, of this second. Because I think we're navigating this balance between being natural beings, living on this natural planet, to also simultaneously living a mediated virtual life.
Yeah.
And the divorce from nature and all of the diseases that are coming from that, right?
Yeah.
And so this was a piece that was sort of, I know this is a ramble, but this is sort of this kind of quest I'm having to find empathy for the things that I find to be adversarial.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So, what we do here on Sounds from the Studio, Susie, is we'd like to, after we've collected stories from our artists on the record here, we'd like to ask them what are 3 songs that they would say that they would use to describe their work.
I would totally, that is so hard. So I thought of a few things.
Ooh, okay.
I came a little prepared.
Love it.
And I don't know that they would describe my work, but there's one piece of music or song, it's called Cry, and it's by Howie B. And it has influenced my work for many, many, many years. It's a feeling. I think if you listen to that song, it's how I feel about my work.
Okay.
And so maybe it's more of a feeling that I would wish if somebody heard the song and they saw my work, it would translate. Am I cheating on this
No.
question?
No, it's funny. Like, as you say that, and we just left that really deep conversation about the pixel and the plastic bag. In my mind, I'm hearing like the song that plays like on American Beauty, like as the bag is like drifting. Like it's all making sense. Like that response, that song is perfect. Like, and the rationale behind it is phenomenal.
Oh, good. Okay, so if you listen to that song and you like it, you'll have to tell me. Mm-hmm. I love Howie B very much. Okay, and then I had to put in a Radiohead song. 4 Minute Warning is really one of my all-time favorite songs by Radiohead.
Okay. I thought it was going to be Fake Plastic Trees.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, right? Like, you probably look at my work and you're like, yeah, she loves Radiohead. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of like every song probably, yeah, I think of that song as a metaphor for things to come a little bit. The song itself is about nuclear war, but I think that can have a broader metaphor. Yeah. And then the last thing I had to put in, because I also, there's Looking for a Way In by Corner Shop, which is such a kick-ass song.
I don't know that,
and it's really about determination. And I think a lot of my work, because of the labor involved, it's about endurance and determination. Okay. And then I have to just add one more because it's cheeky and I thought it would be funny. I sometimes do play Garbage Man by the Cramps because, right? Because
how do you not?
How do you not? It's super funny. It's one of the first albums. I think I bought that record in 9th grade at the Exclusive Company, Anyway, I just aged myself.
That's great. I love that. That is a well-rounded list here. And, for those who don't know, we have a playlist on Spotify that has combined all of our artists' songs together.
Oh my
yes.
God, so
we'll have to send you that link.
Totally listen to that link.
We'll send you the link. So thank you, Susie, so much. We will also put any important links, like where folks can donate stuff to you. We'll put those links below in the show notes there and the show description. But yeah, thank you, Susie, for taking the time here.
Yeah, I feel like we need like a part 2.
I know,
digesting, like, the answers and have so many more questions, but here we are.
Sounds from the Studio is produced by Rugged Angel Productions for Contemporary Craft. Hosted by Rachel and Kahmeela Adams with production support by Mandy Wilson. Please subscribe to and rate the show wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to share. Thanks for listening.